And I think I mentioned this to some of you before, but it's a contest not to, the goal is to get a meeting. So you're not allowed to talk to anybody while everybody else is pitching, but afterwards, your goal is to get as many investor contacts as possible. And the rule of thumb is you shouldn't spend more than 90 seconds talking to each investor. Now in Taiwan, there'll be many fewer investors, so don't worry about Taiwan. Taiwan's almost like practice, okay? Singapore, there will be investors there. And we run a contest. So oftentimes you look at the map of the room, you have a team member in each part of the room and one by your booth, and then you break down the room and you try and get as many investor contacts and as many follow-up meetings as possible. But the idea is to say, hi, nice to meet you, answer a question or give them an elevator pitch. Well, they already heard your elevator pitch. Get their name card, try and set a date for a meeting, and then stop talking and move to the next one. Okay? We had a company, they went to this in Taiwan, there's a Taiwanese guy, and there's an entire room full of 40 investors, and this is pre-programmed. I'm like, oh, so how many people you talked tonight? And he said 3. I just started, like, in a very nice way, yelling at him. Because it's like, you have a room of 40 investors, it's a dinner, you can hang out, everybody's mingling and mixing, and you can talk to 3 people. So the idea is like, a minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes each, and then it's like, oh, let's set up a meeting. So if they start asking questions, it's like, that's a great question, let's set up a meeting. Okay, so the idea is to get a meeting, and then the idea with the first meeting is to get a second meeting. The more you can engage the investor, the better chance you have. Yeah, have a seat. There's a chair over there. There's many chairs. Okay, but so we have a contest. Whoever gets the most qualified investor contacts, and when I say qualified, it means Justin and Eric will look at each one and verify that they're actually an investor. You can take a picture of them or whatever. And we will actually probably collect the data for our database because we might not have everybody's business cards anyway. And the winning team gets a big prize.
Ooh!
Yeah, I don't know what the prize is.
Waiting for the prize, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Right now there isn't a prize, but I'll come up with something.
Moss burger.
It'll be something like that. At Mossburger in Singapore style Mossburger. Okay, we'll go to a hawker stand and feed you chicken skewers until your eyes bleed. No,
not really.
Yeah. So, but anyway, you get a prize, and probably have to do a lot of shots or something. So the last prize was all the free shit that we get. We put it in a closet, and that team got all the free shit that we had collected from 3 months of people visiting us and giving us free shit. Some of the stuff was like wine and like fancy fountain pens. I don't know, whatever. We'll figure out something. But the goal is to, if there's 60 investors in the room, I think we had 65 for China Accelerator, 65, 68. The winner got 58 cards, or 58 cards plus contact. We count WeChat. So print out. You got your WeChat, you got your Line, you got your whatever. Print out the QR code so it's like there. What Ryan did was had a meeting card. It's like you write in the meeting and when we're going to meet. You can set up camp in the cafe near where we're having demo day in Singapore and just stay there all day and do meeting after meeting after meeting. If that's what it takes, okay. But the idea is the next day you should be doing at least 5 to 10 meetings. And if you need to stay until Monday or over the weekend, you should do it. Any questions? Yep.
Normally in a situation like this, like we entrepreneurs would walk around and try to talk to as many investors as possible.
Yes.
Is this fine for this kind of situation, or do we
this is what I'm telling you to
assume
do.
that they're coming?
No. So investors never go to anybody. They have this inflated sense of who they are and how important they are.
Okay.
So no, your job is to go and collar them.
All right.
And like say, hi, I'm whatever, blah, 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 blah. So, and you come up with a script if you want. Hi, I am whatever, I'm the CEO, or I'm the COO, or I'm the co-founder of, Taggle. We're kicking ass, what's your name, where are you from? You have any questions? And if they say, yes, I have questions, what about this? So you answer one question, and then when they ask you the second question, then you get the meeting. It's like, oh, that's a great question. Let's set up a meeting and talk about that. If they don't ask you questions, it means they're not fucking interested, and don't worry about it. But usually investors, their job in their minds is to ask you questions, and your mind is to convert those questions into a meeting as opposed to answers. You're not trying to get funded in the event. You're trying to get contact information from as many people as possible.
So they don't just come in with like gold coins to get you?
Unfortunately, that's a myth, along with unicorns and other mythical animals.
Damn.
Yeah. So I'm the only one who will shower you with gold coins, and they're in the form of 1 NT pieces.
It's gonna hurt.
Yeah. especially the fucking 50s.
We're supposed to have booths, and are they supposed to go around, kind of? Because
There's no supposed to. What I'm telling you is what happens. Nobody does shit. Actually, after listening to 8 pitches, mostly people just want a fucking beer.
Which will have beer.
So, and they want to talk to their friends because they're in a room with all the other investors, and it doesn't happen that often. So they basically will go off and just look for a familiar face and start chatting about their fucking weekend plans. Okay, your job is to go one by one, grab them, just go in and introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Liam. Yeah. and interrupt people nicely. Yeah, break it apart. Everybody, Brian, I assume you ordered these things. We're shameless about this shit. So one thing we do okay here is PR, or we're working on it. But every investor's name tag is like yay big.
It's twice the size of everyone else's.
It should be more than twice the size of everybody else's, and it's a different color, and it says investor. Okay? And if they're not wearing a name tag, it's one of our guys' jobs to go around and figure out who the fuck they are and kick them out or not. So it's it's pretty obvious who the investors are because they're wearing a A4 size name tag. Okay? It's your job to try and win the contest. And everybody here is competitive for the most part, you know. So and this is all team members. That's why everybody on the team should be able to do the 30-second elevator pitch because everybody's selling. It's part of being an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter whether you're like a coder hiding in the cave. You still need to be able to sell. Okay. If it's just up to the CEO, you're going to lose the contest, and you're going to lose the. Now, if you have somebody who's been able to speak, they get nervous, pair them up with somebody else who's talkative. So sometimes we take the marketing person and the tech person, we pair them up. You know, he's a one-man machine. But some of you will have 1 or more people, and if somebody is quiet or shy or like super technical and doesn't sell. But most everybody here is pretty freaking outgoing, so, yeah.
How are the Asian investors different than what we would see elsewhere?
Yeah, so I'll get to that. So in Taiwan and Southeast Asia is a little bit different. So there's something called like an angel round, which is like 500K, give or take, ish. Or they also call it a seed round, okay? Then in China, there's something called a pre-A, which is like $1 million. In Southeast Asia, there's Seed Plus, which is like $1 million round. And then there's a Series A, which is a $2 million. So when you go to people, don't say, I'm raising a seed round, or I'm raising an angel round, or I'm raising a pre-A round, or I'm raising an A round, because it means different shit to different people. What you generally want to say is, I'm raising 500K, or I'm raising $1 million. Okay? Because that will keep you out of trouble. Because Series A in China is $5 million, 5 to 10 million US investment. Series A in Singapore is like 2 investment. You know, so this is different. And actually, nobody, like in China, people say angel, they don't say seed. In the US, they say seed, but seed is a lot more money than in Singapore. But the companies that get seed in the US are actually earlier stage than companies that get seed in Singapore. So in Southeast Asia, if you're raising $500,000, you have users, you have revenue, or generally you have revenue and you're scaling. Whereas if you're raising $500,000 in the US, it's like 2 dudes and an idea, or maybe 3, oftentimes. Or it's like friends and family, or they're just coming, you know, it's much earlier stage. So Southeast Asia, the money is less. Yeah, so it's a little easier just to say I'm raising $1 million.
How much do they? How much do they care about where you're based? So if any of these companies, if they're Singaporean investors, do they want to hear that we'll be having a base in Southeast Asia?
So I don't know the answer to that question. Some will probably care. Some will probably not care. I would tailor the answer. So if somebody says, "Are you based in Singapore or Southeast Asia?" The easiest answer is like, "Yeah."
So that's why I was asking, because we could all say that we're based in Taipei right now.
No, you probably don't want to do that. Well, if you're
Why?
Okay, if you're talking in Taiwan, the Taiwan demo day, yeah, say you're based in Taipei. I'm based in Taipei, and we have a team in. We're based in Taipei, and we have a team in wherever you have a team. Okay, and you actually have a team here. So we have a Taipei team, and wherever that guy with the fuzzy hair is. Okay, so it's different for everybody, but for Singapore, I would say. What I would say is that we have a team in Israel, and we're looking to set up a base, and we're hiring in Singapore. That's not lying. So never lie. But you don't have to say we're based in Singapore. You can say we're hiring in Singapore, which doesn't actually mean anything. If it becomes a deal breaker, you can decide after they offer you money whether it makes sense to actually hire in Singapore or not. Okay? For some people, it might be a deal breaker. For others, not. Most Southeast Asian investors are very different than Valley investors. Valley investors want Valley teams. Southeast Asia, because it's a region, people are spread all over the place. They're not as religious about it. And Singapore is a kind of a shitty place to start up. There's a lot of benefits, but it's also quite expensive, right? So there's a lot of most of all the Singaporean investors that will be there, they're regional. So you can say, yeah, we're looking at Singapore. You can also say we're looking at Bangkok, or we're looking at, it just depends on which market.
Why not Taipei, by the way?
Huh?
You said not Taipei. Why not say Taipei?
Well, for you, you're a little bit different. So for you, I would say, where are your other two guys, or your other guy, or you're all three of you right here?
Three of us here,
else in the
and
team?
there's one other person in Germany.
Germany, and then we have freelancers in Europe.
Yeah. So I don't know. For you guys, you can say Taipei, but we're looking to hire
Not India.
Wait,
it's
so
like-
what-
because you're a data platform, so it's a little different. I'm talking, yeah. But the whole thing about where you are is less of a deal here than in Silicon Valley, where it's very important.
Bangkok
where
is
you are.
better than Taipei, just to understand, maybe.
Oh,
Because you mentioned say Bangkok, but not say Taipei, so.
Taipei is not known as a startup center. So it's a little bit far, and Southeast Asian investors don't travel here. So they might want you to be in a place in their circuit. And Taipei, there's Taipei money that's going to Southeast Asia. There's some small money that's Southeast Asia that's coming to Taipei. Okay? But it's easier just to say we're looking at hiring in Singapore, and then move on to the next, and then ask for a meeting. Yeah.
How often do investors ask about the exit plans, like Asian investors?
If somebody's asking about the exit plans, not so much. Yeah, but usually if somebody asks about an exit plan, the stock answer said we're looking to build a business, and we hope to build it very large. Yeah.
So we don't show any excitement about exit plans. We have not really thought about it. Like, is that the general feeling that we want to pass to them, or do we still have
Okay, in
an
the
answer
U.S.,
in mind?
everywhere is different, and this is a good question. I don't completely. In the U.S., if you start talking about exit plans, people will not invest in you.
Yeah.
In Southeast Asia, it's an early market, so my advice is I wouldn't talk about exit plans. Okay, you want to build a big business. Just in general, I would not talk about exit plans. But if they push, it's like, we're trying to build the #1 gifting platform in Southeast Asia. We think it's going to be huge. So whenever somebody asks you a question like that, answer with a polite non-answer that shows enthusiasm. So then I don't know how many people are going to show up, but there's this thing in Southeast Asia called the Japanese Fund. Okay, so Japanese, there are a somewhat significant number of Japanese investors wandering around Southeast Asia, mostly because people in North Asia hate the Japanese. There are Japanese people in here, right? Okay. So anyway, so basically, a lot of Japanese guys have gone to Southeast Asia and they're investing pretty actively. In terms of how to suck money out of Japanese people, I'm still working on it. I'll let you know. But you met one of them. But Akio is like very westernized. So, yeah, I'd say they're pretty vanilla. I don't know. But just think there might be a couple of Japanese guys in the audience or whatever. They generally have money and they're willing to invest it.
Yeah, I've met some of them, but they are with very small funds, and they're generally looking for a co-investor.
Yes, that's fine. So that brings me to yes, they travel in groups because they don't trust their own opinion, and you know, they're kind of not the most aggressive investors as a group, you know, as a rule. Akio is actually willing to take rounds, you know, IVP, but a lot of these other guys are more timid. Okay, so there's two types of fundraising. There's kind of like the old school fundraising where there's a VC and they take your entire round. That's less and less. Yeah, that happens less and less. It still happens, but now increasingly you will see party rounds. In fact, almost all rounds are party rounds where you will have two or more investors plus angels. Okay, so this is one area where I have a certain amount of skill. So the general idea is you have you're either raising through note or set valuation. So you kind of have, most of you have your valuation set. You're kind of your target. Okay, and then you're saying I want to raise $1 million or I want to raise 2 million or 500K or what. I think it's $1 million above here, 1 million or 2 million for most of you. So there's a certain way you talk about it. So the general rule of thumb is the first person to give you a check, that's always the hardest. Okay, everybody knows that. The second is a bit easier. The third is a bit easier. Once you have half your round done, it's a lot easier because then you can fill in with Japanese and angel groups and other like more like dumb money guys. Okay, so or just like other random money. So the hard thing is to get the first investor. Now, because we use a note, you have an advantage because you have your first investor. Now, you never want to lie, but you can say, well, I have I'm raising $1 million, and there's me. There might be like the Korean government. There might be whoever else has come in on the same terms as that note. And so you say, I'm raising $1 million and I have 50K. Or I'm raising $1 million and I've received 300K. Okay. Now, is it necessarily in that round? Well, do you count government grants in that round? Yeah, maybe not. But usually they're not going to push you too hard. What you're trying to do is get to the next meeting. Okay, and convert them into a believer in the company without red flags. So there's red flags, there's basically check boxes. And one of the check boxes is that I am not the only one in this company. Because investors are like sheep. They follow, they follow like the crowd. Okay, so you want to make it look like there's a crowd in your company. Okay, that's what the demo day is for. There's a crowd of people there. There's a crowd of people around you. You do lots and lots of meetings. You probably have to do like 50, 100 meetings. But you want to, without lying, give the impression that there's a crowd of interest. One other way to do that is you start off with the money I gave you as the first part of that round. Now, you can always raise more, which is why sometimes, if it's not looking that good, we actually cut your fundraising goal. So instead of raising $1 million, you're going for 500. And then you say, well, I have 300 and 500, then you're only looking for 200 left. Okay, when you hit 500, well, you can just increase your round from 500 to $1 million, and you go to the other guys and say, I have 500 of $1 million, do you want to follow? So for this type of party round thing, what you can generally say is SOSV invested in the round. Would you like to follow? So everyone is a follower. Okay? You don't need a lead. It's like you can send docs and sign and fund, and then you're in the round. And as you get each one of those, could be 25K, could be 50K, could be 100K, then the amount that is left gets smaller and smaller. And it becomes easier and easier. Because investors, like I said, are sheep. And if there's 500K in front of them, they feel more comfortable. And whether 500K, 300 of that 500K is from like a Korean angel with Korean government matching, you don't have to go into detail. It's not like you're lying. Yeah.
How likely is it for this institutional VC funds to invest a small amount, like 300K?
Southeast Asia and Asia, there are institutional VC funds mostly invest 500K or $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah. Even the big ones, it's party rounds. A lot of party rounds. Almost all party rounds.
So also because of the...
So think about it like building a syndicate, and you're trying to look popular, okay? So you're a guy, and you're trying to look popular. So I'm the first girl, okay? So you're a guy with one girl. That's much more attractive to other girls than, sorry, I use a lot of guys in here, so just use this analogy. Like a guy standing by himself, not going to do too well. A guy standing with one girl, okay, so I'm your first girl. What you want to do is be surrounded by girls so other girls think there's something there.
That's a little like my mom standing next to me.
Exactly.
But yeah,
but I'm not your mom, so I'm supposed to be hot. Okay.
His mom's hot though.
Maybe his mom is hot.
Thanks. No, his mom or my mom. My mom's really old. Maybe your mom's hot. Yeah. If not, we can put a Kit Kat hat on her head. So yeah, Eric.
What are some notoriously bad terms that teams should look out for on Asian term sheets?
Southeast Asia is generally pretty vanilla, but we can help you with the term sheets. But generally speaking, terms in China are really bad, entrepreneur unfriendly, versus term sheets in America. Now, there's two types of investors in Southeast Asia. There are like private equity type guys who somehow ended up in early stage somehow, and there's startup guys. Now, the startup guys generally give nicer term sheets. Private equity guys during early stage tech give really shitty term sheets. There's something called a redemption, where after 2 years or 4 years, they have the right to make you pay the money back. Yeah,
Do they exercise that?
It happens.
Yeah, because that's pretty much unheard of in the U.S.
It's completely unheard of in the U.S. Yeah, but it can be common out here. So one thing, redemption, right? And I will try, the reason why we have, basically a lot of you are on notes. The note, they're following my note. So you don't have to worry about this because they're following my note. What happens in your first set round is I can help you negotiate. Because I can say, don't be a dick to whoever's coming in. Liquidation preference standard in China, middle of the road is 1.5 times participating preferred liquidation preference. Participating preferred is standard in Asia. Do you guys have any questions about what that is? I wrote a blog post on it, my only blog post. But participating preferred is they get 1.5 times their money back, and then you split based on percentage ownership. That's standard, pretty much standard. You can probably get it down to 1 times participating preferred, but trying to get non-participating preferred is very difficult. Okay. What's another thing? They'll take board seat, information rights, veto rights over future fundraising, bunch of other shit which I can help with. One of my jobs in this in this accelerator is to help you with fundraising and guide you through this thing. So you got my WeChat. I haven't been reading it very much lately, so use the little, or we can set up another group or something, okay? So that you pop to the top. Because if you message me individually, I might not see it for a couple of days, and that's bad. So we can figure out a solution where you're all favorited at the top. Okay?
Once the best ends, we'll have a Mox alumni group in WeChat that people can at least ping William for.
Yeah, but you don't want to be like
not
talking about your
details,
financial terms in the fucking thing. So
details.
yeah, but we all have individual groups with you and your entire team, and I see those. Maybe we just have a CEO group or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out, okay? Or just talk to Justin and Eric, and then they can get my attention if you need help. But my job is to help you, guide you through the financial terms, and I can play the role of the asshole, while you play the role of the nice guy trying to get the money. Okay? So you guys should always be happy, nice, VC, partner forever, wonderful. And I'm the guy who can say, what the fuck? So you should never say what the fuck to the investor. That's my job. Okay? So it's not good cop, bad cop. It's sort of like you say yes to everything, or not yes, but like, oh yeah, let me check, or let me think about it. And then you can use me as the person saying, well, we don't really like that too much. Or we could say, well, other people are actually asking us to do that. Okay? So again, don't lie, but you can, the other person who's not asking you to do that is me. Okay, so, you understand? You're gonna, yeah.
Since this is a pretty early market in terms of startup and fundraising.
Well, Taiwan is, Southeast Asia definitely is, China, I'm trying to pull some China money out. I mean, the China VC market is 2/3 the size of America right now in terms of the amount of money being put to work. So it's a $20 billion. It's pretty big.
Okay, so but
it's just
given that Southeast Asia is earlier, what's the most important metric they care about? How much are they? Can you kind of gloss over with vanity metrics? What should companies be focused on?
So it's kind of like what the guys said when they came here. So the Southeast Asian investors they read a lot of TechCrunch. They read a lot of US VC blogs. They're very Silicon Valley oriented. Okay, so they're like Accio. Kind of, they're pretty. Most of the good ones.
Like 30-day retention KPIs like that.
Yeah. So don't bullshit them. Like with super vanity, okay? They like stickiness, they like monetization, or they like retention, and they like users. Now, user acquisition, for Mox, you say we have a partnership with Mox that gives us free users in return for revenue share. If they ask how many, you can say we're going after, in the initial stages, around 100,000 per month. As we work out our monetization, okay? I'm making this up. If you guys have any feedback, let me know. But this is what I just made up. So we're looking at acquiring about 100,000 per month as we optimize for monetization. Once we're finished optimizing for monetization, we're looking to increase that. And then you can talk about your US and European strategy if you have one separately. And for that, you can talk about traditional virality and user acquisition techniques and, like Mybrana's super low US acquisition cost on Facebook or whatever. That's anybody want to give an alternative suggestion? But you don't need to go into details on Mox unless they push you, and I would probably, it shouldn't be a demo day. That should be in a follow-up meeting when you have an hour to talk about it.
So it should be about an hour that you schedule with investors after demo day?
Yeah, if you're lucky, get 2. Okay, they'll schedule an hour. The longer the meeting, the better, because it gives you more time to sell. Yeah. The other thing is you're allowed to ask VCs questions. So, and you should. So, you should ask them, what their what the hell is it? What the specialty is, what kind of companies have they invested in recently. If you get to second meeting, you get past the second meeting, you should ask to maybe talk to, or second, third meeting, you should try and talk to some of their existing portfolio companies. Sort of basic stuff. But you should ask them questions too.
When do you schedule? Will they ask to schedule the second meeting, or do you ask to schedule?
They're not going to ask to do shit. VCs are generally not. No.
Do you translate it up for that same weekend?
Yeah. Sorry. Whenever you talk to a VC or any investor, or actually in life, okay, just generally speaking in life, when you talk to somebody in a business context, there at the end of that conversation, there should always be a next step agreed upon before the end of the meeting. And so it's them agreeing to you to do something to them now, or with them. Okay, so the next step could be they have to send you something, but there's also a next step where you have to do something. So yes, I'll send you that, you send me this, and we'll set up another meeting. And your job by the end of the first meeting is to get them to agree to a second meeting after those things are delivered. You got to make it really hard for them to blow you off. Because basically uninterest or lack of meetings equals non-investment. So if you can keep them engaged for a longer period of time, it's so much. The more time you spend is actually proportional to the likelihood of sucking money out of them. Okay, so it's all about engagement. Use some of the same metrics you use for your apps and apply it to VCs. Okay. Yeah.
At the max, how long do you chase them?
Until they tell you to fuck off.
Every 2 days.
No, I mean we do 2 to 3 business days. And you make them feel embarrassed. Like you say, oh, well, we agreed to meet, or we agreed to do a call. I'd like to schedule that. And then you don't say, you never ask them when is a good time. You always give them 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, never ask, just tell.
In a nice way.
Yeah, a nice way.
So I am free the morning, this time, and this time, when it's good to, for our follow-up meeting we talked about. Yeah. So, I mean, Justin and Eric have learned this because I make them do it. There's always an action item for every communication, otherwise the communication's a waste of time. Okay? And you need to give people concrete options. Because if it's like, oh, I have to look at my calendar, that's not an excuse not to follow up. As Seppi said, it's mostly true. Associates are a waste of time. But, they're a waste of time on the money raising side, but they're really good to get information out of them. Okay? So you can figure out kind of what's going on, back channel, or you can gossip about other VCs, or you can generally get like information out of the junior staff. But they don't have trigger pulling capability. So what you're always trying to get a meeting with the senior person. But it's not like don't be a dick to the junior people. Actually, they're quite useful. You just have to understand what they're useful for, not for money, but for other things. Especially like updates on what's going on with the partner. Okay? So for the most part, you continue to chase them every 3 to 4 business days until they either say no or you finish your fundraising round, which is usually like 6 months. It's a pain in the ass, but you can set up like a CRM system with a reminder. So you should have, for all 50 or 60 different people that you have on if you don't have at least 50 funds on the thing, there's something wrong, by the way. Okay, so you have 50 funds, you have who they are, name of partner, what they're interested in, and we'll try and actually share some of this with you. some of this information. But basically, the most important thing is what you talked about, what the questions they asked were. Did you answer the questions? Okay. Did you create a PowerPoint slide for your investment deck appendix that answers that question? And the most important thing is next steps. What are the next steps? What's the follow-up? Like the next steps being two parts. Information that I owe them, okay? And the other part is when's the next meeting or call. For you guys, it's going to be a lot of calls. So think about it's almost like for whoever's doing the fundraising, it's almost like a separate company. So you should portion, you need to be very quick in terms of response time on stuff. And, it's like 3 hours a day minimum. So you need to work that into your schedules if you're serious about fundraising.
Cool.
Yeah.
Questions?
I have a question. Considering the smaller rounds that are normally raised here, do we also need to lower our ask? Because otherwise, we are all asking for 1 to 2 million. Given that funds here tend to participate in smaller rounds, and I don't remember the term, like many funds together. So does it mean that we should go for, let's say, 1 million instead of 2 million? And we already have some from SSB, so it makes it more appealing to them, and then we raise this later? What would you suggest?
So generally speaking, my advice is to do that. To put your public target as lower, but to keep the valuation roughly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
so we give
easier.
them half the
Because you
equity.
can always increase it, but you can't decrease it. Because remember that you're supposed to have a financial model that requires 2 million to get where you're going. You're raising the money for a reason, because you have exact specific things that you're going to spend it on. First of all, if you don't have exact specific things that you're going to spend it on, you guys need to work on your financial model. Okay. But you're not raising money just so you can have it. You're raising money to do something. Now, if you need $2 million, then you should probably put down $2 million. But a lot of you guys could use $2 million, but you don't need $2 million. I'll tell you this, for Southeast Asia, there are, let's just say there's 50 investors in the room. There might be 10 that would go after a $2 million round, or 15, and put in $1 million, maybe 10, 12, and there'll be like another 40 that could hit the $1 million round, or the $1.5 million. So think about it like that. And again, almost everything is parties. I mean, even like one of my other companies, it's like an $8 million round, and their lead's putting up 4. Yeah, 4, 3.5, 4. Yeah, and they're pretty late stage. So, people are not. It's a bit different than what you used to read about in the old days, where the VC wanted 30% of the company. At least at this stage. When you get to A, they might want to buy 30% or 25%. But okay. So what else? So we talked about the Tomate, the Korea, the Japanese. So one of the things I'll try and do is try and introduce you to investors after post-demo day. Okay? We need Justin, probably somebody asked you for your investor deck. We have your angel list profile, I hope. You guys all have angel list profiles. We have your LinkedIn profiles, yeah? You have the list. Did you get everything from everybody?
Not yet, but I will.
Oh, okay. So Justin has a job to do, and please give all this shit to him. I will put in a package for the investors. We also are using something called Pitch XO, where we're going to put your investor deck into a kind of like a site with links, and every time an investor clicks on it, we can see who clicks on it, when they click on it, how long they spend on each page. So it's data-driven approach, because we're trying to learn too, right? Data-driven approach to investing. So we'll be able to know, and you'll be able to know who's looking at your shit and for how long. So you should put all your models, all your crap in Pitch XO, and then we can see. Because one thing is, time spent equals interest. So if you've got 2 or 3 associates digging through your shit all the time, that probably means somebody over there is interested. Either that or they invested in your competitor. Okay. What else? Yeah. So we didn't say this before, but you should probably spend a day or two or a few more days in Singapore. There's an event in Taipei coming up called Silicon Dragon. I will try and get whoever's in Taipei in March speaking spots there.
Just got the flyer 2 days before.
Yeah, well, there's real people that go to those things somewhat. It's the first one in Taipei, but the woman who runs it is a bit of an idiot, but they're good events.
Rebecca Fanning.
Rebecca, yeah.
Yeah, she's fine. She's just a little bit. She's a very poor moderator, put it that way. But don't be mean to her, because she's also very difficult. Anyway, but the events are not bad. We're very closely partnered with her. Okay. That camera thing's not on, is it?
Oh, it's on.
It's
Live
not,
stream.
It's not broadcasting to the public.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Rebecca's on.
Yeah. No. This is a private, undisclosed stream
Just for
just for us to test this, and don't worry, it is going to YouTube, but no one can see it.
Wherever you're involved, I'm worried. Okay, so.
Oh, really?
Are there any Japanese in the room?
I know. Yeah, I'm going to.
But Japanese investors used to be more like dumb money. They're getting a lot smarter, but they still like traveling in groups. Yeah.
So they can also take
and we like Korean
pictures.
money because they've never invested outside of Korea. There's just very, very few of them. So if you know of any Korean investors, I'd love to meet them. I got this group that I'd never heard of called Hanwha. Have you heard of Hanwha?
Yeah.
I got them to do their first investment in China.
Yeah.
First investment in China. So it was only $50K. They're a big company, right?
Yeah.
Their first investment was $50,000.
Hanwha's like the number
$3.
3 company in Korea. Hanwha's
Are they big?
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
one of the
so,
largest
okay,
companies
so-
in Korea.
That was baseball team and all that stuff too.
Yeah, okay, so I got a $50K check out of those fucking guys. But anyway, the idea is to get bigger checks over time.
Yeah.
So, they're just dipping their toe in. And it's a trust thing, so I put them in an okay company. The company seems to be doing relatively okay. So I'd love to introduce you to Hanwha and KK Fund and all the other Japanese guys. There's a lot of more Japanese money, not KKK, just KK. There's a lot more Japanese funds going into Southeast Asia.
Okay, we got it.
Yep. Okay, cool. So if you have any other questions, it's not, I think that's most of it. Yeah. Yep.
One more. Would it be possible to have a list of the invited investors in advance so we can select those that are most interesting to us? Given that we've tried to get as many as possible, but if we could follow.
Yeah, no, there'll be a list of sorts. The issue is that you might, their tastes change. So the best thing to assume is that they're all interested. Unless they tell you they're not, okay? So hit them all. And then you'll find out. Because people's tastes, they definitely change. Yeah. Like those ad tech guys, the people that you sent me, the Sequoia guy might be in Singapore, or maybe one of his colleagues. Maybe. But they, for instance, Sequoia will invest in companies where, it's a $200 million profit opportunity for them. So they're looking at a certain different type of template. That's why you're a big data company. Because there hasn't been a $200 million ad tech exit in a long time. Remember, big data. And remember, you're not a social network. You're not a social network. When was the last time you had a good social network exit? Anybody know? Like WhatsApp? Yeah, I mean, yeah. So you don't have 400 million users. So it's just yes, you are a social network, but you're not a social network for the next week. Okay? You want to position yourself in something that's actually investable. And sticker tools, social tools in Asia, that's very investable. Social networks, there are no popular, successful, real social networks except for like maybe Kakao Line, WeChat, and you guys aren't that. You look different. Not to say one day you couldn't be that, but you're not that. Anyway, let's go. If anybody has any questions, I'll stay here. But yeah.
Boss. Nicely done.
Yes, Ryan. That's good.
Boss.
I can't understand.
Skype call with Craig.
Yeah.
In 5 minutes, 2 minutes, or now?
Now, 2 minutes ago.
Stop by this.
1 minute?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I want to talk about the ad.
Yes.